Welcome to the Successful Startup Summit. I'm Kim Thompson, and I'm so grateful that you are here. This is actually my fourth summit, and I started doing these last year as a way to bring together female entrepreneurs that have just figured out how to really take their idea and bring it to fruition. And so by doing that, I've been able to interview so many different women that have just kind of overcome a variety of different things, whether it be internal obstacles or external obstacles or both, which oftentimes it is both, and to go on to really create these incredible businesses and really take their idea and just run with it. And so I think a lot of times we learn by others, right? We learn from their examples. We learn from some of the things that worked for them and what didn't work. And so that's why I started doing this summit, because especially in 2020, when everything changed, we started to see so many small businesses start to open. But what often happens is that people just don't really know where to begin. And so they start researching, getting into what I call the learning but not earning mode. And so I thought if we could shorten that learning curve a little bit by bringing you just people that have already been there and done that, or people that are in that journey and figuring it out so that they can impart some of that knowledge, some of that wisdom. So that's what this is all about. Today, we will have 4 speakers, and then we will continue tomorrow as well with an additional 4 speakers. So with that, I want to get started. My first guest is a woman who is a serial entrepreneur. She is an award-winning CEO. She has an extensive background in business. She is a global business consultant, female founders. She is a wife, a mother. She's been figuring out how to juggle all of that. And her latest venture is in something that is really cool. It's a great idea. It's called Insta Explosion. She's going to explain a little bit more about what that is. It's basically the world's first and only Instagram loyalty and rewards program. So kind of like the points that we get for our credit cards and such. So she has figured out how to really make a run with that idea. And it's a great idea. So please welcome Jacquie Branagan. Hi. Can you hear me okay? Are you unmuted?
Yes, I'm unmuted now. Thank you.
So where are you, in Ireland right now? Or are you in the Canary Islands?
I'm still in the Canary Islands, thankfully. So, just to anyone, I am genuinely not trying to look cool. I'm wearing these so that I can see you because they're prescription. So
yeah, no, that's great. Fine with that. They're probably better for your eyes anyway with the blue light, blockers and all of that with our computers nowadays, right?
Very true.
So Jacquie, I met through a social app, or it's kind of an audio app called Clubhouse. And if you're not familiar with Clubhouse, it's kind of like a podcast that you can drop into and start to interact with people. And Jacquie with the red lipstick, that's how we know her. She's in the red, and
Jacquie in the red with the red lipstick.
It's a great color for you. And she is, you're a great moderator in that. And Clubhouse has these moderators that are they're facilitators basically, right? So bringing people on and up and into interact, but she does it in such a loving way and such a kind way. And if you've not been on there and you jump in and out of rooms, you'll understand what I mean. So I actually met Jacquie in Clubhouse and was just intrigued with all that you've done and your knowledge on everything. And just, as I said earlier, it's really being able to juggle the responsibilities that we have as women, as a wife, as a mother. And not only for you, you're a mother of a special needs child. So there's a lot of things that go into that, and still being able to say, okay, you know what? I still have this other side of me that is important to me. And that's like my livelihood. So I would love for you to kind of just walk us through a little bit about your background in business and what got you onto the entrepreneurial path.
Oh, well, first of all, lovely to be here. And I had a global role for one of the largest multinationals, and I was doing that for a number of years. And let's just say there was a particularly interesting character that was my boss at one point, and not in the global role, but as my career progressed within that organization. And when he tells you wear high heels because it accentuates your ankles. There were so many other things. But when I had the opportunity to take redundancy, I took it. And while I was off that, if you like, treadmill, I had been looking at an idea that, for instance, in Ireland or in any country, but bear in mind this was 20 years ago. So you had to go take a day off work, go queue, be in an open environment, be asked personal questions, everything you can imagine. The queuing time, it was just a terrible experience. So from that terrible experience, I thought to myself, there must be a better way of doing this, not just for people in Ireland, but for the 400 million Irish and people of Irish origin worldwide. So I approached different government departments and they thought, yes, great idea. Got them on board and my entrepreneurship journey began. So, yeah. So,
I love that because it's, I mean, it really speaks to having an idea and figuring it out, like just kind of taking that first step, because I think so often we have ideas, but we either just sit on them or we analyze them or we overanalyze them. And ideas are energetic in nature. Like if we don't take action on it, it has to manifest somehow. So it's going to bounce over us and show up somewhere. Like, so other people might have had a similar idea, but they just sat on it and didn't do anything with it. And it has to come to life. So here you are going, okay, I'm going to just figure it out. And I love that. So you just decided, okay, I'm going to just make some calls, knock on some doors and kind of figure out, okay, I've got maybe a better way. What do you think? Right?
exactly, exactly. And, you know, going from corporate to entrepreneurship, it's, you know, people think, oh, I've had this great role or I've done this. I can do on, you know, be an entrepreneur. Yes, you can be, but it's a heck of a journey. You know, there are so many things that you learn along the way. So, you know, a big thing for me is when I talk to people now, is I say to them, be coachable. You know, if I had had the resources that are available now for female founders, my experiences could have been a lot better than some that I had, you know.
Yep.
So that's why I suppose I'm passionate about, you know, being here, anything I can do to help female founders, because there still is, to a degree, that glass ceiling. You know, when women, when some women want to have these great ideas or want to be involved in something, there's still that element of the little woman, the girl, like me, the blonde. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So you have all those things. So I suppose first and foremost, I would say to people who especially want to start up is be coachable.
Yeah.
You have everything you need. You were born with everything you need, but just be coachable and develop those strengths, because that is what will really help you get to the next level.
And it's such an important point because it coming, you know, when people exit corporate and think that they can step into becoming an entrepreneur and say, okay, well, I already know how to do it over here. But what happens is that in corporate, depending on your role in corporate, you have to step into your leadership of your own self and your own business. And I think that's a lot of times where people get caught. Well, I know that's where a lot of times people get caught up in the struggle, because it is a whole different ball game, especially if you've been in corporate and you've had that structure, because you know, you have either a quota or you have predetermined things that have to be done, right? And sometimes you have a whole support team. And then when you come into entrepreneurship, what so many entrepreneurs come into entrepreneurship for, and especially we saw this in 2020, I've been furloughed, I've been laid off, or I'm just realizing I'm working from home and I don't want to go back. And so what I hear a lot from clients is, I don't want to go back and start to do that. I love the ability to have that freedom. But here's the kind of the rub, is that 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 quest for freedom requires structure. Like the very thing we're trying to run from, that structure, is the very thing that's going to actually give us more freedom in our business. Because if you don't have the structure, if you don't have the systems and the processes in place, everything runs on systems and processes. And if you don't have that in place, then it's really hard to stay focused, to create a plan of action, to hire a support team around you, because you're constantly, trying to do everything yourself, and you burn yourself out trying to do that. Like I always tell people, the faster you can start getting some kind of structure to your day so that you can start getting some profit, not revenue, but profit, big difference. Revenue can be great. There's many multi-million-dollar companies out there, but they don't have the cash flow. So there's a difference. So getting that profit in, but then being able to hire somebody to help you, to kind of support you so that you can do your own thing. And that's, kind of what you're talking about. It's like, be coachable so that you can get yourself to that level.
Exactly. And it can, like I said, the resources that are available now are amazing, just amazing. And, women can get there a lot quicker than they would have, because I surround myself by women who want to help other women, because we've all had those that don't. So
Yeah.
I only want to be around women who help and genuinely want to support other women and guide them. Because, if we don't help each other out, for me, that's just sad. That's just sad. We should be our own biggest cheerleaders. We really should.
Hey, men for years have had their own little men's club and networking groups and all that. And women have had that, but I think obviously we're starting to see more and more of that, especially as more women come into becoming small business owners or taking on the role as a leader in their own business and entrepreneurship and such. I think you're starting to see more of that. And what also I think rings true is that it doesn't matter if you have similar industries or if you're in the similar line of work. There are many people that I work with that we all kind of do the same thing, but we approach it in different styles. Everybody has their own style. And so why not start to support each other? Because really it's through that collaboration that we all start to rise.
That's the word, collaboration.
Yeah.
All the time, collaboration over competition. And, you're right. There's so many people who do the same thing, but if we were all the same, it would be a very boring world. So somebody that might resonate with you mightn't resonate with me. So that's why it's great that people have choices out there now. Go with people that resonate with you, because first of all, getting that trust working with people is paramount, absolute paramount, because you have to have that and then take it to the next level.
And you never know where a contact can lead you to. And it could be that you're trying to figure out something, right? An idea for something or a new program or whatever, but you never know where one person, like where we can always be just maybe one person removed from what we really need. And you don't know how that can actually show up. But I also think that one of the dangers I see frequently with people just starting up a business is that they get in this, they start researching, right? And so then it's like that overwhelm. And then you go, maybe I should do this, and maybe I should do that. And then we start getting into compare and despair. And it's that, oh my gosh, they started like, I don't know, 3 months before me, and look how much further ahead they are than me, or whatever it may be, right? But that goes back to really your point of saying everything's already within us. Like we already have it within us, but why is it that we don't, like, why do we take so long to kind of figure that out? Sometimes we just shut ourselves down.
It's the great thing that I think a lot of us suffer with, and I'll say suffer, is imposter syndrome as well, and we don't recognize truly the strengths and abilities and skills that we have. And if we only had got up in the morning, looked in the mirror and had a good talk with ourselves and learned to like and appreciate the person you see in the mirror for all that they are, and all that they can be.
Mhm.
You know, it would just make such a difference. It would just make such a difference.
Yeah. It's the internal scripts that hold us back, and that fear. And for whatever reason, and I think you're right, I think we all have it, and I think it's being able to stand up and say, okay, what really lights me up, what am I really good at? And sometimes that's all, that's just a process, a journey, that especially I think when you step into owning your own business, personal development and business development go hand in hand. Like when you become an entrepreneur and when you start to figure out what you need to do in order to really bring that business to life, you have to take a look at yourself. Like you start to really tap into, okay, what are you made of? And I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm just going to, be determined, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's just really understanding what are your triggers, and what may be the thing, that the stories that maybe you're telling yourself, because I think that's when we really start to find out, oh my gosh, why do I have this belief? Like, why am I holding on to that? Where did that come from? And then being able to step into a different version, or maybe a more loving or higher version of ourselves, and more of that acceptance too.
Absolutely. And um, people set goals, and goals are wonderful. However, by setting goals, for me, that limits you, because you're aiming for something and something else could come along. But because you achieve that goal, you might settle. So I
Mhm.
would always say, don't ever set yourself up where you limit you. Always think big, always.
Yeah.
So, whatever your short term goal might be, make sure your longer term goals are sky's the limit, you know.
Mhm.
And when it comes to, they say knowledge is power, but it's not, it's applied knowledge is power. So, when you have those skills and you apply them, then that is where it starts. That is where you get that kick and you get that confidence, and you can really start to grow and scale.
I, nothing happens without action. And
Mhm.
so it's that, you're right. It's the applied knowledge, because it's one thing. I mean, how many people do we know in this world that are what we would call really an educated derelict, right? They know so much, they've got all these degrees and certificates, and yet you can, just Google a little bit about it and see self-made millionaires or whatever, success stories, and find out how many of them actually didn't finish college or didn't get the MBA or whatever. And I'm not saying that those things are wrong, because I think they can be incredibly valuable. And especially because it also broadens your mind. It allows you to absorb more information. It allows you to create networks and such, but it's what you do with that that's going to matter. And you can sit back on it and say, okay, this is it. And if that might be for you, because entrepreneurship isn't for everybody. But, if you're looking to really say, okay, I want to step into something different in my life, you have to have a big picture vision that's pulling you forward. And usually, people always say your why is important. Your why is important, but I always think that if you can't clearly define that initially, it's always going to be tied to whatever that big picture vision is, because you wouldn't have the desire for that big picture vision unless you had some reason kind of supporting it and pulling you out to that as well. And so I like to chunk things down in 90-day increments where I create plans. But if I look at the big picture, it's like, okay, what do I really want this to look like? And I think a lot of times people get, maybe they hold back a bit because they can't quite figure out what their vision is. And a lot of times it comes from just because we've been structured. We've been living in such, um, under these constraints that we've, maybe put on ourselves, depending on what we've been doing in our lives. But we have all these systems and structures that we kind of like, okay, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. And it's hard sometimes to say, wait a minute, what would life look like? What could my ideal, this is why coaches always say, if money were no object, or if you
Yeah.
could do anything, what would you do? Like, what would your ideal day be like? And I think it takes some practice to kind of allow yourself to dream like that, because I think we've been so conditioned to say, well, that's a pipe dream. But that's not true, because especially now with today's internet driven world, there are more millionaires now than there ever have been in the past. And that it's completely changed. But we have more of a level playing field. Like everybody has an opportunity now that they might not have had 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
I totally agree. And when when you take that step into being an entrepreneur, there is fear, but people have to remember that fear, it's just an emotion. And remember what it stands for. It's false evidence appearing real. So what you need to do is take action, and that will move your fear into focus. So that's what you've got to do. Move your fear into focus. It's just an emotion. Don't let it rule you.
Well, and the action is, the action is the key ingredient here, because what often happens is that we get lost because we're trying to figure out things. We might have a great idea. This is what I want to do, etc. But then we get lost because we don't really know. We get overwhelmed. We don't know what's the first step? How do I set it up? All of those types of things, right? And then we, of course, research, compare, blah, blah, blah. But through that action, we gain more clarity. And through that action, the how-tos start to become evident. I have found that to be the case.
Yeah, and do as well? It's not just young women who want to become entrepreneurs. It's women who have either had to leave their job or just fed up with their job, or older women who have come up with an idea, or they haven't felt that that they had achieved something really. And I really want to say it doesn't matter what age you are. Look at Colonel Sanders. What was he, 64, 65? When, yeah, when he opened up Kentucky Fried Chicken. Mm-hmm. So don't ever let anybody limit you. Anybody, and that includes yourself. Don't ever let anybody limit you. Once you have breath, you can achieve. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. And the key phrase in there, I think, is not even yourself. Don't allow yourself to limit you, because I think we tend to be our own worst enemies. I know I have been in the past many, many times, and have pulled back for a variety of reasons. I got really good at justifying my behavior, and there's a fine line there. I got very good at being productive, which was just busyness to keep things, keep myself hiding and pulling back. Really good at perfectionism, because, I was a magna cum laude graduate, all these, did this, had all this stuff from the schools. And then it was like, well, okay, so before I put this piece of content out, I have to do this and this and this. And I was like, all I was doing was pushing it off, and pushing off really kind of the inevitable, what I knew I wanted to do, but I still kind of pulled back for various reasons, and
that's what you said there about the perfectionism bit, right? What's that another word for? Procrastination. You're allowing yourself to procrastinate because you are pushing those things off that really you need to do, that you need to focus on. So I'd say the majority of people are guilty of that, but the good thing is to recognize it.
Yeah. Well, because awareness is key in everything that we do, because that's the first step in everything. And it's very easy to say, oh my gosh, I just don't have the time. I don't know where the hours in the day go. I'm so big. Listen, I had 4 kids. I raised 4 kids by myself, so I got divorced when my youngest was 4. And I had the very real need to bring in income. I had to put food on the table. I had to take care of things. Because at the time my ex was just going through some different things. We'd lost a business and things were changing. So it was like, okay, I've got to step up here now and get back into this. And so, it was like, yeah, there's only so many hours in the day. So what happens is that you've really got to be laser focused. on some things. And so that's like the why. What was my why then? My why was really powerful, and it still is. But it's my kids and being able to know that I can provide for them and take care of them. But at the same time, in doing that, even though I knew that I at that time wanted to do more of these things, the summits, and start doing that, because I had a franchise with personal development industry years ago and did sales training and consulting before I got married and started raising a family. But I couldn't quite figure out how to go back and do that and monetize it. And what happened is I got so caught up on how do I do this, the how, but I've got to make the money. And so it became this like, and that was completely derailing my efforts, and eventually when I started surrendering, I think there's the power in surrendering and allowing the process, things just naturally started to evolve. But it was only because I was willing also to ask the questions of myself, okay, what's going on here? And what do I really need to do to step into the person that I really want to be? And I started getting really connected to my vision. And my vision, part of that was my own calling, what I knew lit me up. And I think that's a key part for people, is that when you can start to just take a moment to give yourself some mental space, breathing room, and go, what do I really want? Like, what could it look like? Like that, the thing that you are designed for, because I believe we all have a purpose. We all have a calling in life. We have innate talents and strengths that give us energy and in turn give other people energy. And I think that when the more you can spend in that quiet time of daydreaming in a sense, you start to, it's like you were talking about, a big picture. It's like what's the bigger goal?
Exactly, exactly. And do you know what? I loved what you said there about stepping into the person that you wanted to be. Because if people just do take that step back, imagine the person that you want to be in your future, embrace that person,
Mm-hmm.
keep taking those little steps, and you will get there.
Yeah.
You
And
really will.
you will get there. It starts with those baby steps, though. It's again that
Mhm.
action creates clarity, and actions reward it, because spirit always rewards action. You can't just put the picture on the vision board and think, okay, that's going to great. It's going to work.
Exactly.
There's
You're
a
going to
whole
wake
other component to that.
you're going to wake up in the morning and all of a sudden, you've got that big car, this new house to move into. No, when you get those feelings, when you get that, and don't ever underestimate your gut. I will say that, don't ever underestimate your gut when it comes to things. But you're right, and this comes back again, applied action, applied knowledge,
Yeah.
so, and if people can just, I mean, any of these things, if I had, it didn't matter, like I said, that I had a global corporate role. When you come into entrepreneurship, it's very, very different. It just is.
Mhm.
It's a different ball game altogether. And it doesn't matter what your skill set is. And yes, it can bring you so far and help you. But entrepreneurship is a bigger bubble than just you. So there's a lot to learn. It's a heck of a crazy journey at times, but it can be great. It can be very frustrating. And, I've had everything that you could think of happen. Um, but the important thing for me was never making those mistakes again.
Yeah. What were some of
Learning.
those mistakes that you made on your journey?
Oh my God. For instance, hiring people I liked
Mm.
rather than, and they appeared to have the skills, right? But when it came down to it, I didn't know enough at that time about the different personality types, for instance,
Mhm.
and how if you want somebody who's good at organization, this is the kind of person that you want. So somebody else might have done some of that stuff or have some experience in it. But if it's not innately part of them, they're not going to be able to fulfill what you need them to do. So it was learning those kind of things along the way, just because you do kind of gel with somebody. You can gel with somebody on a personal level, but that doesn't mean that they will fit into your organization and do the job that you want them to do, to the ability and the level you want them to do it. So, yeah. And one of
There's
many.
a reason why corporations have an HR department, and they go through that hiring process, and they do all the different interviews, and they actually sometimes have people take the personality tests as well. And that goes out the window, I think, a lot of times. I mean, I got into a couple of partnerships that I should never have gotten into. And I knew it. Like, I knew it in my gut.
Told you, don't ever dismiss your gut.
I know, right? And so how many times have I done that? And yet, and it's always, I mean, my intuition has always been 100% accurate. But you know what I was doing? I would get into some of these and I think, it's the faster, easier route.
Mm-hmm.
It's never the faster, easier route. It may appear that way initially, right? But it's not, because when you deny that intuition and that little whisper inside your head, there's a reason for that. And it turns out to be like, oh no, now we've got to change all of this and go back and
Exactly. It's like, I don't know if you've ever had these crypto scammers approach you, right? And invest 1,000 now and you'll get 10,000 within a week.
Yeah.
Well, if it sounds too good to be true, it bloody well is, like, as simple as that. And, when it comes to building up a business and being successful, you may be lucky initially. And that includes your skill and aptitude and everything. But if you don't continue focusing on who it is that you're looking to serve, it's not about you being interesting. It's about you being interested in them, so that you can continue to build on what you are doing. Because you may have that initial success in the beginning and think, oh, this is easy, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
No,
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's not what, that trajectory doesn't stay there. So no, yeah.
It's consistency is absolutely key. And also you brought up the point about it's being interested in them. And I think that's a big part of it. It's really understanding, who it is, who's your ideal client, who is it that you're working with, and what is it that they really want? Like, how can you best serve them? It's like Zig Ziglar said, you can get anything in life, everything in life that you want, if you will just help enough other people get what they want. And so if you approach it that way, like, okay, what is it? Because as human beings, we want to help. I think that's just generally our nature. So it's kind of looking at it and saying, what is the best possible thing that I can do to support somebody today? Because when you approach it from that position, and I don't care what business you're in, it doesn't matter if you have a product-based business, if you have a service-based business, an e-commerce store, whatever. But if you're always looking in terms of what is it that people would want and how can I best serve? And you come from that place of service, it's a game changer.
Mm-hmm. Huge. And always under promise and over deliver. And that is a huge I can't stress that enough, key to being successful. Under promise but over deliver.
Well, yes, and what I like about that is it's a little different than when, like, right now we see, when you're starting to try and build a business, it's like, give a lot of stuff out there, give freebies, give this, give whatever. And there's a fine line, because at some point you start giving so much away that you start to devalue yourself and in a sense disrespect yourself, and that comes across, because then you start doing it with resentment. Yes. Rather than out of joy. And that resentment it's subtle, but it will shut things down.
Absolutely. And we all know you can give things away, but it's only when people pay that they pay attention. So give away as much as you want, and it's nice to be generous and all that sort of stuff. But if you don't value if you don't value your product, your service, and you give away it for, be it underpriced, whatever it is you are doing, you don't value you, others are not going to value you. Right. They're just not. And you've made it easy for them. You've made it easy for them.
Yeah. Well, and there's a big difference too, because, you're right. When people pay, they pay attention because there's a kind of that accountability. It's that inner accountability as
Mhm.
well. And, early on, we talked about the coaching, like get somebody, a mentor, somebody to help you I'm a firm believer in that. And I mean, I do business development, personal development. I have a business coach, and anybody that's trying to get to a different level does. I mean, even speakers, fantastic speakers have a speaking coach. It's like everybody, athletes, obviously, that's just, given. Um, but I think it's just important to also to look at that and know that when you are continually giving so much away, or when you're lowering your prices, like a lot of times, people, I remember this in with one of my clients years ago, when I was doing sales training and such, in that, in the personal development franchise. And I forget who it was exactly. It was one of my mentors, but they had said, you have to be aware of what your pricing is, because you at the same time don't want to disrespect your client. Like, do you want to work with a client that you say, oh, here comes Mary, poor Mary, she just doesn't have it together, she just doesn't have two pennies to rub together, she needs so much help. It's like, or do you want to hold that person in a different light? Do you want to hold that person with, oh, look, here comes Mary, man, she's got so much on the ball, she's got a lot going for her, I'm going to help her with whatever it may be, right? It just changes, it changes the energy, so that you aren't like devaluing not only yourself, but that individual as well. Because when people are just paying the lowest bottom dollar, typically they're not going to show up.
No, they're not. They're not going to be fully committed. And again, it gets back to, when you pay attention, because you want to get the value out of what you've paid for,
Yeah.
you know? And it'll help you take action and whatever steps you need to take to be successful.
Yep.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
And
It's
when it,
absolutely a win-win. And I can't tell you, you might have done this too, but I have bought, I've bought so many different courses and things that I thought, oh, that looks pretty good. And, I paid a fair amount, not that much, but if I'd paid more, I would have opened them. Haven't even opened them.
yeah,
I know they're in my inbox. I'm like, right, right.
I
But
get you.
if you
I get
paid more, you would have opened it and gone through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So hopefully, this is a bit of a learning for people when they think about a product or service. And you don't want to overprice. Of course, you don't want to go out and think, oh, I'm worth it, I'm going to charge crazy amount. No, there's a thing called market value. However, um, don't undervalue yourself. Respect the people that you want to do business with. Look after them. Like I said, be interested, and that will help make your journey a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll find out very quickly whether or not that, yeah, the market value, whether or not they're willing to pay for that as well. And if you even have that value, but you do a complete disservice to others and yourself when you do devalue yourself, because people don't pay attention. And if they don't, you
Exactly.
can't build your business on that, because you'll never get anybody that's actually going through and working with you and whatever it may be, or trying your products, or using your services, etc., and getting some kind of results. And if you don't have that, you can't grow a business, because you're not going to have the clients, and you need the clients to sustain your business. So I would, before we get into Insta Explosion, because I really want you to talk about that, but I just want to know also the female founders, because I know you're a global business consultant. So can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I, yourself, Kim, when it comes to when you have a skill set or knowledge or whatever it is, you can get approached quite a bit about stuff. And I had always mentored and helped women in business myself, just when I was in business, be it whatever business I was in. And when I put those businesses aside and looked at what I wanted to do going forward, I was getting approached quite a bit. And there were different people and organizations that ticked boxes. But for me, Zadasi ticked all the boxes. And that was really important because a lot of people, when they set up, these consultancy organizations and whatever, they don't, yes, they want to get the clients on board, and yes, they want you on board because you've got credibility or whatever. But when you look innately down at what can you do for these people, or how can you even help them in the beginning, even to just avail of your service. So with Zadasi, it's like you can pay up front, you can pay in small, a couple of payments, or what I really liked was the fact that you could pay over 2 years.
Oh, that's
so
I haven't heard one of those before. That's a long time.
Yeah, it is. So obviously the person, there's a credit approval and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
but innately it's because it's not like huge money. It's doable, but not everyone has it when they want to start up a business, or when they're in a business and they're just having difficulties and they can't quite put their finger on it, and they just need help and guidance to structure things, if you like.
Right.
So I love that, and I love the the forums we run. It's utter confidentiality and just the ethos of the organization, and it was set up because one of the founders, he has a wife and daughters, and his wife, very successful businesswoman, very successful. But when she was dealing with other organizations, even though she was the CEO, they wanted to talk to her husband because they wanted the man.
The money
So,
the man was and the million.
that gets my goat. It really does. So, the whole ethos behind it, and wanting, and I know, and they have daughters as well. So it's about having a safe environment and supportive environment that genuinely wants to help female founders. It just ticked, like I said, it ticked all the boxes for me. So that's why, when I was approached by them, it was okay, let's go through some stuff. And yeah, absolutely ticked all the boxes. I'm in.
That's great. I I think a mutual friend, Jennifer Changlo.
Oh yeah, isn't she adorable?
Oh, she's fantastic. She's on tomorrow afternoon, and she is brilliant, child prodigy, and just, a concert pianist, virtuoso, and just, has built many different businesses. And she was saying that people would look at her and say, oh, well, it must be because of your husband. And she was constantly kind of battling that and thinking that, he's very high powered in his own right? But she has built her own things, and she would be interviewed even, and people would say, well, I suppose, it's nice that you were able to have your production facility and everything for her one business, Glamit. Your husband owns the building. And she was like, we pay rent. Like, I run this as a business. And she said people were just floored to hear that, her husband didn't give her a break on that. She was saying, no, because this is a business. We run it as a business. And there's no freebies. Like, I have to keep it organized like that. And, it was just fascinating to me that I think that in today's world, that still happens.
Yeah.
And it surprised me. I guess I just didn't think that it was still kind of going on. And yet I've been hearing more and more about that as we started putting the summit together, actually. And I thought, wow, it's really interesting that these women that are, multi, like Jennifer, multi-million dollar, earners, and built these businesses and now fund startups and such. Yeah, it's just crazy to me that is still kind of going on, and perceived that, oh, you go, yeah, sure, it's a great idea. Right?
The little woman, Oh, don't get me going, because that is a real bone of contention for me, so it's I've been put in a box enough, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I nearly ended up in one for real, as in when I got very ill. Yeah. So I always say it's like no one ever ever puts me in a box. No one tells me where I can go, what I can do. Not my husband, not anybody. Do you know what I mean? Like we have that.
100%. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, we have that respect and understanding and everything. But no, I am the author of my destiny. And um, obviously, my husband and son are up there in my priorities and my why. Of course, they are.
Mhm.
But as I have got older, if you like, I have learned to value me and my needs as well, instead of putting everyone in front of me. So that's why I can be away here. And I'm here over 2 months now
Mhm.
because I'm working on different projects. As you know, when you're trying to get me, it's
Yeah.
like it's impossible because I'm working across numerous different time zones,
Right.
so but I get to do that, and I get to do that on my terms.
Yeah. It's
So
it's such an important point because especially as women, how often, and that's I think part of a generational and societal thing, that we learn to put everybody else before. It's the nurturing thing in us too. It's putting everybody else in front of us and kind of taking that back seat or that back, putting ourselves on the back burner or our ideas, our
mhm.
dreams, our aspirations. I mean, I shut a large part of myself down for a long time, and I loved, I wanted nothing more than to be at home with my kids and to be there and to be witness to all the things that they were growing through. But at the same time, there was the business part of me, the other part that I really enjoyed doing, the sales training, the coaching, the personal development, but I didn't know how to blend those two. And I think that's a lot of times a very hard path for women to navigate. And now, I mean, my kids are older now, so it's obviously it was easier for me to start getting back into things. And I start looking back and I think, I mean, because I did do that and I did keep my hand in business and I was doing stuff and kind of juggling things, you teach others. Like I showed my kids, I have two girls and two boys, that you and what you want to do and what your ideas and aspirations are, those are important. And so
Yes.
you don't want to shut that part of yourself off because that is a big part of who you are. Like, I really think that a big reason why I got divorced is because I shut that part of me off. And so that interest and such wasn't there anymore. And I didn't
Mhm.
quite know, who I was in
Yeah.
those earlier in my 20s. I was like, I thought I did. And then all of a sudden I had to take on, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm this person now. And I was
There
like,
you go.
oh, how do I do this? Right.
And as we mature, as we go through life and all the lovely little lessons it can give us, um, hopefully we do get to a stage, and sometimes it may be frustration, it may be whatever it is, but it's that kick, if you like, that we give ourselves, that it's like, I want more. I'm
Yeah.
capable of more. I can do more, you know?
Hmm.
And that's what I want all women to feel.
Hmm.
Yes, you can do it. You absolutely can. And don't ever let anyone. And sometimes those people around you can be your nearest and dearest. And I don't mean could possibly be your husband, but it could be siblings, it could be parents, it could be anyone. The armchair entrepreneurs who think they know it all.
Oh,
Those toxic people in your life who say they want you to succeed, but they really don't. You know.
well, you have to be careful. I tell people a lot of times that
Mm.
you have to be careful with who you share your goals with because, there's a fine line between having accountability by sharing your goals, but at the same time, there can be this jealousy and kind of this it's energy, right? And that
Mhm.
jealousy is like if you are not so firmly planted in your belief that you can achieve that goal and you share that with somebody else, you're going to get back that same energy. So you're going to get back the energy, even if it's just that little minuscule part that's inside that says, I don't really know, why am I, and you're sharing it with them to get their approval
Yeah.
right there. And in that moment, you've already kind of deflated that because there's that little gap in that energy. And so I always tell people, be aware of who you're sharing that with, because until you are so full in yourself that you are fully believing it, you want to be careful of that. I mean, I've had plenty of people say to me, and they're friends, but they're friends that would look at me and say, oh, come on, you tried it. You tried it. Your kids are, they're getting really worried. You've tried it. And, maybe it's time to go back and get a job. And I'd be like, do you know me? Like, you really don't know what I'm made of. Do you not think that I've got this all, like, it's going to be fine? And, that's how you weed out. Like, we always go through different seasons in our life and we find those support systems. That's why I think it's so important to have that collaboration and to have those different networking groups that were people that are like-minded that can help fill you up and support you, because entrepreneurship can be a lonely path.
Oh,
That's what you need.
I found it the loneliest of paths. I really did. But some people, when they set up a business and it mightn't go the way they wanted to, and they fail, okay, and they give up.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my God, that is the worst thing to do. Don't give up. You've learned lessons. If you look at the amount of successful business people out there, they've all had failures.
Oh, yeah.
And it was those failures who helped get them to the level that they're at today. So, have faith in yourself. Yes, you might have struggles with a business or whatever, or it mightn't work out the way you wanted to, but take those lessons on board. There's so much in just keep going. There's just so much in it. And for your soul, it's good for your soul. And it's not being just doing something on a wing and a prayer. But if you don't have that faith in yourself, if you don't have that energy that you talk about, if you don't put that out there, why would you succeed?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like Les Brown says, if you don't have the belief, you lean on somebody else's belief until yours kicks in. And that's why that support system in the community is absolutely so key to building a business. And that, in the beginning, I had the song Never Give Up playing because you just can't. There's always a way, because I am a firm believer that if you have a desire in your heart, you absolutely have the ability to bring that desire to fruition. It's not just dangling out there and saying, sorry, sorry, sorry. It's just a matter of, okay, you have to figure out the steps to get there. And you never know how that's going to happen unless you start taking the action. And sometimes that action can be as simple as saying, oh, I'm aware of this. Thank you so much that I'm gaining the clarity each and every day. That can be your first step. And then from there, eventually you start finding that, oh, I met somebody today that told me this. You just have to pay attention to those things.
I was going to say there, number one is that when you said you had that song that you play, I think we must all have a song, because I have two. My song was, the Culture Club.
Yeah.
Karma Chameleon.
Yes.
But it was Karma Chameleon, but I used to sing Karma. Karma. So, and when I would sing that, and it could be around people that were energy vampires, put it out there, right?
Yeah.
So, but I knew, so they just hear you singing a song, but I know that what that's doing for me, it's clearing that energy, and and I would also say, learn to say no. It took me too long to learn to say no. You say yes to everything. You will wear yourself out doing stuff for other people. So learn to say no.
And stop at that. No is not a 4-letter word, and no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
I used to try and fill the gap. I'd say no, and then I'd be keep talking. It's like, you don't need to do that. Just let it hang. Just let it sit. You don't need to be attached to how other people feel about that. It's protecting that energy and having those boundaries. Yeah, but saying no is, and there's nice ways to do it. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Doesn't fit with my schedule right now.
Yeah.
Contact me in 6 months, whatever it may be. There's plenty of ways to do that. We're getting close to the end of time, but I really want you to talk about Insta Explosion, because I think that is just such a fabulous idea. So just explain a little bit about what that is and how it works.
Sure. So I'm one of the co-founders of Insta Explosion. And like you said in the beginning, it's the world's only and first instant Instagram loyalty and rewards program. So within that, you get to build your business, you get to build your community, and you get to do all those things, including building your brand, because through this loyalty and rewards program, when people comment on a post you do on Instagram, when they share a post, they get rewards, they get points. And those points can add up to be anything from a book to a course to, it could be an NFT, right up to worldwide vacations. And people can have their own rewards, or they can do a combination of their own and ones that we have. So who doesn't want a vacation? Who doesn't want, a course if they're looking for a particular skill in something?
Right. Yeah.
All these different things. So yeah, it's very, very exciting. So we're been working on that, and that all these meetings, a lot of them that I have to do with that. So
Because you just launched that recently, right?
yeah, we did a soft launch, and there's a lot of stuff we're working on in the background. So I mean, the feedback we're getting is just fabulous, and people saying it's about time, or wow, and they don't realize that you can have your own loyalty and rewards program, just like Walmart, or just like any of the Starbucks, or any of these. You
Right.
now can have. So if you think about how you became loyal to them because you got rewards, or you fly with a particular airline because you got points, etc., you can now get that for your business, for your brand,
It's such a great
and
idea.
yeah, and build a community. And with it, then we have that, they download, once they sign up, they download this little card to their wallet. So just like you would have any loyalty thing, be it a credit card or anything, in the wallet on your phone. And
Right.
every time it just automatically updates when people comment or share.
Mhm.
And it's just a great way, because a lot of people, especially people starting up, or even some in business, they don't have ways of capturing either people's email addresses, all that sort of stuff. They might have, oh, look at this, and you can buy something, but they don't have that proper system, if you like.
Right.
That
So this helps them get that system in place too, so they can
Yeah,
know how
because
to email.
there's a CRM at the
Yeah.
back of it. So they're getting all that information from the people who sign up to their loyalty and rewards program.
Right.
So it's providing much more than just. So there's a win-win all around, because you win by increasing your business, your brand, you're
Right.
growing your community, and your community stay loyal to you because you are being kind to them and rewarding them for that loyalty.
Yeah.
So when it's
So
win, I
you can
love
share
when
the points, and the points that you're getting for people commenting and such on yours, you can share that with your community. Is that how it is? Or you're rewarding them? You're getting rewarded for the comments and such that they're giving and
you,
interacting with your content.
yeah. So for instance, if you signed up to mine, right, you would go to my Instagram, put in the word my pass, and you can sign up to my one. So when you get those points every time you would comment or share a post of mine, they're your points.
Right. Okay.
So everyone within the community collects their own points,
Yeah. Like a
because
credit card, and then I can cash it in on certain items.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
So
that. What a
yeah.
great idea. Just a great idea.
Well,
I know that you have, people can connect with you. And I think Carrie Lynn, you're going to put that link up to connect with Jacquie via Instagram, and they can find out more about that. But
Yeah,
I love that it
absolutely.
captures the email too, because that's so key. And people that get on social media and start building their brand on social media, and they don't know how to capture the email, it just completely takes away from
Exactly.
what they're doing.
Look at all the people who have either lost their accounts, or they've been hacked, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And what did they have from all those? Could be a couple of hundred, could be a couple of 100,000 followers. They
Yeah.
have nothing,
Nothing.
nothing.
Nope.
this solves all that,
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm very proud to be part of it.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Jacquie, thank you so much for being here today, for joining us and sharing your wisdom, your journey, and the things that have worked for you, what didn't, and bringing up things like, that the self-limiting beliefs and hiding behind that, but then really building a community around you in that support network. And I love that. And I love that you talked about the female founders and such as well, because I think that is, man, that is just so key when you're, venturing out as an entrepreneur and trying to build your brand in your business. Thank you. I so appreciate you having joined me here today, especially since you're in the Canary Islands. What is it? Probably 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock there?
Oh no, it's just gone 6 p.m. in the evening, so it's not too bad. Yeah, it's not too bad now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and you have such wonderful other speakers joining you, so I know it's going to be a wonderful couple of days.
Thanks, Jacquie. I appreciate that. I will see you soon and hear you soon again in Clubhouse.
Look forward to it, Kim. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.